Hello Movie Club Strikes Back, it's me Jenny, and this is another We Are Movie Club Strikes Back review, and this week's pick was from HandsomeQuacker, link to him in the description. He is fantastic. He's one of the first ever YouTubers who actually talked to me. He's from one of the original DeFranco Movie Club family, and has fortunately come over to join us in Movie Club Strikes Back, and is one of the great higher-ups, and he's awesome and just a genuinely nice guy. So thank you. And before I start, if you haven't been able to tell, and by the fact that I'm quite rosy-faced right now, I am not quite sober. I had a couple of glasses of wine before starting to watch this film, which I'm kind of glad of because it wasn't exactly my cup of tea. He chose Street Hooligans, which is kind of a morality story about British football culture and hooliganism, and not really my cup of tea. I found myself continuously, while watching this film, finding myself being incredibly familiar and yet also ridiculously distant from the story. I recognised a lot of the landmarks and a lot of the scenery. I love the fact that I was like, yes, they filmed in England. I recognise that station. I recognise that style of street. I recognise the fact that they are driving on the left hand side of the road like proper people, because, you know, that's an English thing, and, you know, the quintessential British pub, and guys having a lager and, you know, talking a bunch of crap, and the underground, and things that are very familiar as landmarks. Similarly, the actors are very familiar. Pretty much Elijah Wood is the main American actor in this. He's the lead character and he is an American character, but pretty much everyone else in the cast is one of those. As a British person, I'm like, oh, I know that guy's face from somewhere, and to be frank, it's either Bill or Hogby City or Casualty or Silent Witness or one of the Poirots or Agatha Christie's, because they're just that brand of actor. They are the British actors that you just see around and you're like, oh, he's been in something I've seen. Or EastEnders, you know, it's that brand of actor that play the British characters, which I found both enjoyable as I kind of recognise this, but also, I suppose in terms of Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins and the Black Butler Cockney accents, this is a whole other good level, but I honestly couldn't really comment on the accuracy of some of these Cockney accents. I honestly have never met any English person who has called an American a Yank every 30 seconds, or just basically ranted on about Cockney rhyming slang continuously. That could just be that I've been hanging out with the wrong people, or maybe the right people, but it's just a genre of British culture that I'm not really immersed myself into, and I'm not really planning on immersing myself into. That being said, as I said, there's a lot of familiar things about this, but there's a lot of things that, either due to my lack of experience in that subgenre of British culture, or due to the fact that that subgenre has become very stereotyped and dramatised, it just doesn't exist. I did feel myself being regularly distanced from the plot. It's a morality tale, as I said, so you know it's probably not going to end in the most joyful way from the get-go, similar to American History X, where you feel like you can almost tell that it's not going to perhaps have the most happy ending. That being said, you do get this hero's moment at the end. I'm going to talk about the ending, so spoiler alert. The ending where Elijah Wood's character records the ex-roommate confessing basically to having framed him, I found that kind of empowering, because it's meant to be this empowering moment where he's like been on his hero's journey and he's come out stronger, and yet given a lot of the stuff that's coming out in terms of American political corruption and the amount that political and highly economic figures can get away with, regardless of whether or not it's American or British or other cultures, the amount they can get away with one tape recording of a guy confessing sort of to having framed this guy who is a journalist major who clearly, you know, evidence could be found for his behaviour in London, probably wouldn't be enough to win him back his position in Harvard. We can, you know, movie logic and be like, yay, you can go back to Harvard and your life will be better and more improved for your experiences in London. But frankly, my logical centre of my brain was like, and I was like, no, not going to happen. That rich kid is going to get away with everything. His dad is clearly a great standing political figure. One tape recording is not going to change this guy's life, either of their lives, and I kind of found that a bit like, oh. In terms of direction, it's not a poorly directed film or a poorly acted film, apart from perhaps some of the dialogue choices. There's some very specific colour toning in this, which I kind of appreciated. There's lots of blues, it's slightly monochromed, and that kind of, for me, imitates sometimes how the English weather is just a little bit on the grey side. They definitely muted a lot of colour so that when you do get these blood splatters, which you get a reasonable amount of, this is a relatively violent film involving quite a lot of fighting, they do pop out on screen a little bit, but it does still feel grounded in a sort of reality. There isn't, as far as I could see, that much animated blood. It seems to be all blood effects on set, which I found quite good. It's definitely grimy. I can't comment on how realistic it is, as I said. I've not really experienced much of that aspect of culture, if that aspect of culture does exist. But there we go. Not really my cup of tea. I would recommend it if you really like Snatch, is the only example that I can think of off the top of my head of these sort of gritty, cockney type things. If you like that sort of genre, I'd say give it a watch. For me, not my cup of tea. It doesn't really have the same sort of rhythm and pace that I found enjoyable in Snatch. But there we go. Worth a watch once, I suppose, as someone who wants to try new things. Anyway, I am kind of tired and more or less sobered up now, I think. So I'm going to go to bed, but feel free to comment down below and tell me what you thought about this film, tell me what you thought about this review, and all of those sort of things. And I will see you guys all very soon. Bye guys!